Have you ever done everything right? Prayed, believed, declared, confessed, and still found yourself staring at your bills, wondering why prosperity just wouldn't come? You are not alone. There is a very specific reason, almost never taught in churches and completely ignored by self-help gurus, that explains why so many people of genuine faith remain trapped in a cycle of lack, frustration, and silent doubt. And that reason has nothing to do with a lack of faith, a lack of effort, or some hidden sin you need to confess. It has to do with something far deeper, a layer of reality that the Hebrew scribes themselves and the earliest Christians knew about, and that was practically erased from the spiritual history of the Western world. What I am about to reveal in this video is going to make some people uncomfortable. It is going to challenge what you have been taught about the relationship between spirituality and material prosperity. Because the truth is that there is a specific vibrational frequency encoded within the Aramaic language, the very language Jesus used to speak, pray, and teach, that functions as a direct bridge between the spiritual world and the physical world. The ancients called this the channel of manifestation. And when you learn to access that channel, not just with words, but with your entire being, something changes. Something that goes far beyond any visualization technique or any list of affirmations you have ever tried. Stay until the end, because what you are about to discover here may be exactly the missing link in your journey. Now, before we go any further, I need to be honest with you about something. This is not a video about magic. It is not about instant formulas or about how to trick the universe. This is a video about deep truth, about restoration, about the kind of knowledge that transforms not just your bank account, but your heart, your identity, and the way you relate to God. And throughout this video, I am going to show you exactly how this hidden Aramaic frequency connects with the most powerful principles in the Bible, verses you have probably already read, but that are going to take on a completely different meaning after today. Get ready, because what comes next is something very few people have the courage to say openly. Let us start from the beginning. From the real beginning. About 2,000 years ago, in the heart of the Middle East, a man named Jesus of Nazareth walked along the sandy roads of Galilee and taught something the world had never heard before. He did not teach in Latin, the language of imperial power. He did not teach in Greek, the language of philosophy and reason. He taught in Aramaic, an ancient Semitic language full of nuance, layers of meaning, and a sonic vibration that modern linguists themselves recognize as extraordinarily rich and multidimensional. In Aramaic, words do not carry just one meaning. They carry frequencies. They resonate on multiple dimensions at the same time. For example, the word Abba, which Jesus used to address God, does not simply mean father in the biological sense. In Aramaic, Abba simultaneously carries the sense of primordial source, sustaining presence, warmth, protection, and intrinsic abundance. When Jesus taught his disciples to pray saying Abba, he was not merely teaching a religious title. He was teaching a frequency, a way of vibrating in harmony with the source of all creation. And here is something that very few people know. The Aramaic word for kingdom, Malkuta, which appears in the Lord's Prayer when we say Thy kingdom come, that word in Aramaic does not simply mean a government or a territory. It literally means the sovereign presence that manifests its design throughout all of creation. This changes everything. Because when Jesus taught his disciples to pray Thy kingdom come, he was teaching them that the function of authentic prayer is to create a vibrational alignment between what exists in the spiritual plane and what manifests in the physical plane. This is not the law of attraction in the New Age sense. This is biblical theology in its purest and most powerful state. Matthew chapter 6 verse 10 in the King James Version says, Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done in earth, as it is in heaven. Read that verse again, but this time, through the lens of the Aramaic knowledge we just explored. Thy will be done in earth, as it is in heaven. What does that mean in practice? It means that there is something in heaven, in the spiritual plane, in the domain of invisible reality that needs to be brought here, to the physical world, to your concrete life, with your name and your address. And that transfer, that manifestation, happens through a specific channel. A channel that was blocked for centuries by a religion that separates the sacred from the material, that teaches that being poor is being humble and that prosperity is suspicious. But the Bible does not teach that. Not at all. Psalm chapter 35 verse 27 in the King James Version says with complete clarity, "Let them shout for joy and be glad that favor my righteous cause. Yea, let them say continually, Let the Lord be magnified, which hath pleasure in the prosperity of his servanty. The Lord hath pleasure in the prosperity of his servanty." This is not an obscure verse. This is the word of God speaking directly about the divine desire to see his child prosper. And if God desires that, if he takes pleasure in it, why do so many people of genuine faith continue in lack? That is the question this video is here to answer in a practical, deep, and transformative way. The answer begins with an understanding that is going to seem simple, but that has profoundly far-reaching implications. Prosperity does not flow to where there is effort in. Prosperity flows to where there is alignment. And alignment is not just a matter of positive thoughts or repeated affirmations. Alignment is a matter of frequency, of the total vibration of your being, which includes your thoughts, your emotions, your deepest beliefs, and even the words you use when communicating with God and with the universe. This is where the Aramaic frequency enters the scene in an absolutely revolutionary way. When researchers in the field of sacred linguistics, and also contemporary theologians like Neil Douglas Klotz, who spent decades studying biblical Aramaic, began to analyze the words Jesus used in his ministry, they discovered something extraordinary. The prayers and teachings of Jesus in Aramaic created specific vibrational patterns that, when spoken with full intention, had the effect of synchronizing the brain hemispheres, calming the nervous system, and placing the human body in a state of maximum receptivity, the exact state in which manifestation occurs most effectively. In other words, the teachings of Jesus were not just theology. They were spiritual technology, a technology of consciousness that the modern world is only just beginning to rediscover. Think with me for a moment. Have you ever had that experience of being in a very deep time of worship, or in a moment of prayer when something simply opens up inside you? When tears come without warning, when you feel a presence that is too real to ignore, when something inside you becomes calm in a way that no external circumstance can explain. What was happening in that moment? From the perspective of neuroscience, your brain was producing theta waves, the same waves associated with states of hypnosis, deep meditation, and creative visualization. From the spiritual perspective, you were opening the channel. You were tuning into the frequency. And now comes the part that is going to shift your perspective forever. That state is not accidental. It is not a gift that randomly appears for some people and not for others. It is a state that can be cultivated intentionally, repeatedly, and with increasingly powerful effects on your material life. John chapter 10, verse 10, in the King James Version, records Jesus saying, "The thief cometh not, but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly." Life more abundantly. Not discounted life. Not survival life. Life more abundantly, which in the original Greek is Zoe, the life of God flowing without restriction through every area of human existence. Financial, relational, physical, emotional, spiritual. All of it. It is not a choice between material prosperity and spiritual wealth. It is the integration of both things in the continuous flow of divine life. But then comes the most important practical question. If all of this is true, why does it not work for everyone? Why can you have faith, pray, declare verses, wake up early, pay your tithes, and still remain stuck? There are three primary blockages that most people never identify. And each one of them operates at what researchers call the subconscious level, the level that lies beneath rational consciousness and that determines the real frequency you are vibrating at day, regardless of what you consciously declare. The first blockage is the unconscious belief of unworthiness. You can declare, "I am blessed and prosperous" with your mouth 100 times a day. But if deep in your heart there is a voice saying, "But not for me, that is for other people, I never succeed," that voice is commanding your real frequency. It is like a radio tuned to static while you simultaneously try to pick up the frequency of abundance. The signal does not come through. The second blockage is the unconscious theology of scarcity. Many people were raised in religious environments that, with the best intentions in the world, associated poverty with humility and prosperity with sin. This created deep, unspoken belief that wanting to prosper is somehow contrary to the will of God. And that belief, even if you consciously deny it, continues operating in the deepest layers of your psyche, creating an internal conflict that sabotages every attempt at manifestation. The blockage is emotional disconnection from prayer. When prayer becomes mechanical routine, the right words at the right time with no real emotional engagement, it loses its vibrational potency. Not because God does not hear, but because you are not really transmitting. You are reciting. And there is an enormous difference between reciting and transmitting. Now, how does the Aramaic frequency resolve these three blockages? Let us return to Aramaic. There is a word in that language that encapsulates one of the most powerful concepts in the entire Semitic spiritual tradition. The word is teshuvah, which in Hebrew means repentance, but which in Aramaic carries a fascinating additional dimension. It literally means to return to your original state of wholeness. Not punishment, not self-persecution, not an angry God waiting for you to come crawling back, but return, a restoration to the state in which you were originally created, complete, worthy, loved, and designed to prosper. Romans chapter 8 verses 31 and 32 in the King James Version says, "What shall we then say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? He that spared not his own Son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things?" All things. With him. That promise is not conditioned on your spiritual performance. It is not conditioned on you not having made mistakes. It is conditioned on one thing, the fact that the Son was delivered. And if the Son was delivered, then all things are also given. Prosperity is not something you need to conquer with enough fervor. It is something that already belongs to you as a son and daughter of the Creator of the universe. The question is not about deserving it. The question is about tuning into it. And it is exactly here that I want to pause an important moment in this journey, because the path we are walking together does not end with this video. For those who want to go deeper, who want not only to understand this connection, but to learn how to apply it in a practical and consistent way in daily life, there is a resource created specifically. Why? For that purpose. The ebook Attract Divine Abundance brings together, in an organized and accessible way, the principles we are exploring here. How to align your spiritual frequency with the abundance that is already yours by divine inheritance. How to dissolve the unconscious blockages that sabotage manifestation. And how to create daily practices that integrate faith, intention, and action in a coherent and sustainable way. You will find the access link in the first pinned comment below this video, and you can also scan the QR code that appears on screen right now. It is the natural next step for anyone who wants to transform what they heard here into concrete, lasting results in real life. Returning to our central theme, how do you begin? In practice, to access the Aramaic frequency and use it to create alignment with the prosperity God desires for you. I am going to share 3 concrete practices. 3 tools you can start using today, not tomorrow. Today, the first practice is what I call the prayer of return. Instead of beginning your prayer with a list of requests, what you want, what you need, what is lacking, begin with the return. With the restoration of identity, sit in silence for at least 2 minutes. Breathe deeply and consciously, and then, with your voice out loud or in a whisper, say these words: Father, I return. I am your son. I am your daughter. I am complete in you. Everything that you are for me and in me. This is not a magic formula. It is a declaration of identity that begins to reprogram the deepest layers of your belief. You are telling your nervous system, your subconscious mind, and the spiritual field around you that you belong, that you are worthy, that you are a child, and not a beggar. And that shift in identity is the foundation upon which all real prosperity is built. Philippians chapter 4 verse 19, in the King James Version, confirms, "But my God shall supply all your need, according to his riches in glory, by Christ Jesus." According to his riches, not according to your limitations, not according to the state of the economy, not according to what your employer thinks you are worth. According to his riches, the creator of the universe, who owns the gold and the silver, the cattle on 1,000 hills, and who established the laws that govern all physical and spiritual reality. The second practice is vibrational listening. This practice is based on something that spiritual masters of the ancient Middle East practiced regularly, and that is completely lost in modern religious traditions. Vibrational listening consists of listening, not speaking, of creating space to receive instead of constantly transmitting. Most people have a one-way relationship with God. They speak, ask, declare, sing, and then prayer ends and life goes on. But what if God is trying to communicate something back? What if the frequency of divine abundance is constantly transmitting in your direction, but you are so busy transmitting that you never tune in to receive? Psalm chapter 46 verse 10 in the King James Version says, "Be still, and know that I am God." Be still, in Hebrew Rapha, literally means to let go, to drop, to release tension. It is a divine instruction to stop striving and simply listen. To practice vibrational listening, set aside 5 to 10 minutes after your prayer to simply remain in silence with a posture of receptivity. No agenda, no list, no prayer program. Just open and pay attention to what arises, not necessarily as an audible voice, but as intuition, as an image, as a sensation, as a thought that seems to come from outside of you. Over time, you will notice that those moments of listening are where business ideas arise, where solutions appear, where pathways open up. Not by chance, but because you finally opened the channel. The third practice is what I call the triple coherence alignment. This is perhaps the most advanced concept and also the most transformative of everything we are discussing here. Triple coherence occurs when 3 levels of your being are saying the same thing at the same time. Your mind, thoughts, your heart, emotions, and your body. Most people live in incoherence. Their thoughts say one thing, their emotions say another, and their body feels a third. You think I will be prosperous, but you feel anxiety, which vibrates at the frequency of lack, and your body is tense and contracted, which is the physical posture of fear, not of abundance. That internal conflict is exactly what cancels declarations and affirmations, no matter how theologically correct they are. The triple coherence alignment works like this. Before making any spiritual declaration or affirmation, first create an internal alignment. Breathe deeply 3 times. On the first breath, quiet the mind. On the second breath, open the heart. Invite a feeling of gratitude, of love, of warmth. On the third breath, relax the body. Release the tension in your shoulders, your jaw, your hands. Now, from that integrated state, make your declaration. I trust in divine supply in my life. God's prosperity flows freely to me now. I am loved, provided for, and equipped to fulfill my purpose. When mind, heart, and body are aligned, the vibrational potency of your declaration increases exponentially. This is what science calls cardiac coherence, and what the Bible calls praying with the Spirit and with the understanding. Now I want to share the story of a woman I will call Carol. That is not her real name, but the story is real. Carol was 51 years old, had been a believer for more than 20 years, attended church every week, faithfully paid her tithes, and led a prayer group in her community in Nashville, Tennessee. And she was completely financially stagnant. Debts that would not go away. A business that would not grow. Constant feeling that the promised blessing was for others, but not for her. From a young age, Carol had heard her grandmother, a woman who had lived through the Great Depression in rural Georgia, repeatedly say that money is the root of all evil, and that real Christians don't go chasing after our riches. Those words, repeated year after year at the kitchen table of a modest home, had become the invisible code governing every financial decision Carol made without her even knowing it. That old story, combined with a theology that confused poverty with virtue, had built an invisible wall between Carol and the abundance God had prepared for her. When Carol began to explore this deeper dimension of spirituality, not abandoning her faith, but deepening it, she discovered that a fundamental belief was operating in the deepest layers of her being, that she did not deserve it. Not consciously, she consciously said she was a daughter of God and that she was blessed. But deep down, her grandmother's ancient voice kept operating, mixed with years of scarcity theology, and that combination was commanding the real frequency with which Carol engaged with the world. When she began to work through those three blockages, the belief of unworthiness, the theology of scarcity, and the emotional disconnection from prayer, and when she began to practice the three tools I shared with you, the prayer of return, vibrational listening, and the triple coherence alignment, things started to change. Not overnight, not in a magical and instantaneous way, but progressively, really, and measurably. Within 6 months, her business grew by 30%, not because she found a business formula, but because she changed the frequency with which she presented herself to the world, because she began making decisions from a place of real faith instead of decisions from a place of fear disguised as faith. Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 18 in the King James Version says, "But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant which he sware unto thy fathers, as it is this day. He giveth thee power to get wealth," not the wealth itself, but the power, the capacity, the spiritual dunamis, which is the creative force of God operating within you to transform work into result, effort into fruit, seed into harvest. And that power is not activated by greater effort. It is activated by alignment. Returning to the Aramaic frequency, there is a prayer that Jesus prayed that is recorded in Aramaic in the Gospel of Mark. In chapter 14 verse 36, Jesus prays, "Abba, Father, all things are possible unto thee. Take away this cup from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what thou wilt." Abba. In Aramaic, at the most difficult moment of Jesus' life, he did not resort to religious formalism. He did not use a distant liturgical title. He went straight to intimacy. Abba, the loving and powerful Father who's the source of all reality. And in that intimacy, within that frequency of deep connection, he made his most powerful declaration. "Not what I will, but what thou wilt." That was not resignation. It was supreme alignment. It was the complete dissolution of the separate ego into the perfect desire of the Father. And the result of that alignment was the greatest manifestation in human history, the resurrection. Now, you may be thinking, but Jesus was the Son of God. Yes. And John chapter 1 verse 12 in the King James Version says, "But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name." Sons of God, with the same access, with the same inheritance, with the same capacity for alignment. The difference is that Jesus lived in perfect and constant alignment. We are still learning. But the learning is possible. The growth is real. And every step in the direction of alignment produces real fruit in real life. I want to talk now about something that many people in the spiritual manifestation community encounter and rarely know how to resolve. The phenomenon I call the middle swamp. You learned about frequency, about manifestation, about alignment, about active faith. You got excited. You applied it. And then you arrived in the middle, that place where things have not yet changed enough for you to feel confirmation. But you already know too much to go back to the state of unconsciousness you were in before. It is the swamp. It is where most people stop. It is where faith is most severely tested. Isaiah chapter 40 verses 29 through 31, in the King James Version, speaks directly to that moment. "He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increaseth strength. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." They that wait upon the Lord, in Hebrew kava, literally means to twine together, as if the fibers of your life were being braided together with the fibers of God's character and purpose. This is not passive waiting. It is active waiting, a waiting in which you keep moving, keep aligning, keep practicing, keep trusting, while the fibers of the divine are being woven into the fabric of your story. The middle swamp is where those who quit remain, but it is also where those who persist are transformed, because it is there that faith becomes real, not the faith of when things are going well, but the faith that sustains when the storm lasts longer than expected. And it is exactly that faith, dense, experienced, matured, that vibrates at the highest frequency, because it has been tested and did not yield. Let us talk now about something practical and concrete: the relationship between gratitude and vibrational frequency. The neuroscience of gratitude is fascinating. When you experience genuine gratitude, not the performative gratitude of listing good things out of obligation, but the gratitude that is born from a real perception that you are already being sustained, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, which are neurotransmitters associated with well-being, motivation, and expanded cognitive capacity. Your parasympathetic nervous system is activated, moving out of fight or flight mode and into growth and flourishing mode. In other words, gratitude places you in the exact physiological state in which manifestation occurs most effectively. But the Bible knew this millennia before neuroscience did. Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7, in the King James Version, says, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." With thanksgiving in Greek, oikaristia is the same word from which the word Eucharist is derived. It is a liturgical action. It is the recognition that the good is already present, that grace has already been poured out, that supply is already in motion. And when you present your requests with that quality of gratitude, not as a beggar but as a child recognizing what the Father has already provided, the frequency is completely different. And the results reflect that difference. There is one final dimension of the Aramaic frequency that I need to share with you, and it is perhaps the most radical thing of all we have discussed today. In Aramaic, the word for sin, kite, does not primarily mean a moral violation or an act of disobedience, as we tend to understand it in English. It comes from an archery term and literally means to miss the mark, to not hit the point you were aiming for. And that radically changes how you understand your own story and your experiences of failure, stagnation, and struggle. When you miss the mark, when you live out of alignment with the frequency of who you truly are and what God designed for you, it is not because you are evil or unworthy of love. It is because you are aiming at the wrong target, or because your aim is compromised by blockages you did not even know existed. And the good news of the gospel, the best news of all, is that this alignment can be restored. The aim can be corrected. The mark can be hit. John chapter 8, verse 32, in the King James Version, records Jesus saying, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." The truth sets you free. And the truth about you is that you are loved, chosen, equipped, and destined for the abundant life that Jesus declared He had come to bring. The Aramaic frequency is not an esoteric secret reserved for a few initiates. It is the original frequency of faith before it was reduced to ritual dogma and religious obligation. It is the frequency of Abba, of the child recognizing his father, and of the father running toward the child who has returned. Luke chapter 15, verses 20-22, in the King James Version, tells that story in a way that never loses its power. "And he arose, and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him, and had compassion, and ran, and fell on his neck, and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet." The best robe, the ring, the shoes. These are not decorative details, they are signs of status, identity, and dignity. The father did not restore the son to his original position with reluctance or conditionality. He ran, he embraced before hearing the confession. He ordered the celebration before any proof of change. Because a restoration is not earned, it is given. It is grace. And when you open yourself to that grace in depth, when you allow that truth to travel from your head all the way down to the deepest part of your heart, something breaks inside you, not with sadness, but with liberation. And it is precisely in that moment of liberation that the frequency changes. So, what are you going to do with everything you have received today? First, begin this week. with the prayer of return. Every day, before any request, return to identity. You are a son. You are a daughter. You belong. You are worthy, not because of your merits, but because of the grace that was given once and for all. Second, practice vibrational listening. Add at least 5 minutes of receptive silence after your prayers. Stop talking and start listening. What is God wanting to communicate to you that you have not been hearing because you have been too busy transmitting? Third, work intentionally on the triple coherence alignment. Before your declarations, align mind, heart, and body. Do not declare from a place of misalignment and expect aligned results. Create the coherence first, then declare. Fourth, and this is the most important invitation, be honest with yourself about your blockages. Is the belief of unworthiness operating in you? Is the unconscious theology of scarcity sabotaging your faith? Is the emotional disconnection from prayer stealing your spiritual potency? There is no judgment here. There is only the honest question that opens the door to real transformation. Isaiah chapter 55, verses 10 and 11, in the King James Version, closes with a promise that is, at the same time, cosmological and deeply personal. For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater. So shall my word be, that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. The word does not return void. It accomplishes its purpose. And when you align yourself with that word, not just as a religious text, but as living frequency, as creative vibration, as the Aramaic Abba resonating in the deepest layers of your being, you are not merely praying. You are co-creating. You are participating in the process by which heaven manifests on earth. The spiritual materializes in the physical, and divine abundance flows freely into every area of your life. That is the invitation. That is the truth that was hidden not by force of a malicious secret, but by layers of religiosity that lost contact with the original vitality of faith lived from the inside out. You now have the keys. The door is open. What you do with that is, as always, the most important decision you are going to make today. May you return. May you tune in. May you prosper in every dimension of the word, for the glory of the one who takes pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. Until the next video. May God continue to open your eyes to the riches of the inheritance that is already yours in Christ.